Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez rolled her shoulders against the unfamiliar lightness of the station's artificial gravity. At 0.8 Earth standard, it was a concession to human physiology that still left the other diplomatic representatives comfortable. The Galactic Confluence Station hung in space like a jewel, its gleaming spires and crystalline habitation rings representing the pinnacle of cooperative engineering among 200 species, none of which evolved on anything close to Earth's punishing conditions. "Try not to touch anything, Engineer Rodriguez," Ambassador Chen whispered, noticing Maya's wandering attention. "The Menton delegation is already nervous about having someone from a Class 12 world aboard their station." Maya nodded, though her focus remained on a subtle vibration beneath her boots. 6 years in deep space maintenance had taught her to trust her instincts about machinery, and something about this station felt wrong. Not dangerous, not yet, but wrong in the way of a bearing about to fail or a power coupling approaching tolerance limits. "This way to the central confluence chamber," announced their guide, a willowy Kurzeli whose translucent skin revealed the gentle flow of lavender circulatory fluid. "The Arbiter Council awaits your credentials, though I must advise that physical contact protocols are strictly enforced." The diplomatic team proceeded through arching corridors, where gravity seemed to shift subtly with each step. Maya noticed the alien representatives giving her a wide berth, their eyes tracking her muscular frame with what might have been fear, curiosity, or perhaps both. Humans had only joined the Galactic Confluence 3 years ago, and most species still viewed them with suspicion. The term Deathworlder wasn't meant as a compliment. The vibration grew stronger as they approached the central hub. Maya's pace slowed as she observed faint flickering in the illumination panels overhead. A Menton technician scurried past, 4 arms manipulating a diagnostic tool with practiced precision, chittering nervously to a colleague. "Is everything all right?" Maya asked, her translator rendering the question in standard Galactic. The Menton froze, compound eyes widening at being addressed directly by a human. "System fluctuation. Minor. Not concern for guests." It hurried away before she could respond. Ambassador Chen shot her a warning glance, but Maya couldn't shake the feeling of wrongness that now hummed through the deck plating. As they entered the vast confluence chamber, her eyes were drawn not to the assembled dignitaries, or the spectacular viewport showcasing 3 nearby stars, but to a massive crystalline structure dominating the chamber center. Unlike the sleek, seamless engineering evident elsewhere, this construction seemed almost organic, pulsing faintly with inner light, its lattice structure reminiscent of Earth coral formations. Warning klaxons suddenly blared, causing several delegates to flinch or recoil depending on their evolutionary responses to danger. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing 3 residential sectors outlined in flashing red. "Life support failure in sectors 7 through 9, announced a calm voice in multiple languages. "Non-emergency evacuation protocols activated." The assembled aliens erupted in confused chatter as technicians rushed to control panels. Maya stepped away from the human delegation, drawn to the crystalline structure. Its pulses had become erratic, desynchronized in a pattern that reminded her of cardiac arrhythmia. "What is this?" she asked a nearby Kurzeli official who was frantically interfacing with a control panel. "The Guardian," the alien replied without looking up. "Station's central processor and life support regulator. But it's never malfunctioned before. Never in 8 centuries." Maya placed her hand on the nearest crystal surface, ignoring shocked gasps from nearby delegates. The material felt warm, vibrating at a frequency that made her bones resonate in response. In that moment of connection, she understood. "Your guardian is dying," she stated matter-of-factly. The station administrator, a tall, serpentine-vised, slithered forward. "Impossible. The precursor technology is beyond malfunction, beyond your comprehension." "Certainly." 3 more warning signals blared as atmospheric pressure began dropping in additional sectors. "Full evacuation recommended," the calm voice announced. "Estimated critical failure in 26 standard hours." Maya met the administrator's compound eyes steadily. I can fix it. Absolutely not. The Menton chief engineer's voice rose to a pitch that made Maya's translator crackle. We cannot allow a Deathworlder to interface with our most sacred technology. The emergency council chamber had been hastily convened as evacuation protocols continued throughout the station. Maya stood before representatives of 12 species, all regarding her with expressions ranging from suspicion to outright hostility. Ambassador Chen looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. With respect, Maya said, keeping her voice measured, your evacuation timeline is 26 hours. How long would it take to bring in qualified engineers from your homeworlds? The Visit administrator's tongue flicked anxiously. 38 hours at minimum. We've already dispatched emergency requests. By which time this station will be a very expensive, very dead hulk in space, Maya concluded. I'm offering an alternative. The Kurzeli representative floated forward, her translucent skin flushed dark with emotion. You misunderstand our reluctance, human. The Guardian technology is beyond even our comprehension. The precursors left no maintenance protocols, no schematics we can decipher. It has self-regulated for 8 centuries. Maya nodded. May I see what data you do have? After a tense silence, the Menton chief engineer reluctantly activated a holographic display. Complex schematics filled the air between them, rotating slowly to reveal intricate crystalline structures and energy pathways that defied conventional engineering principles. Maya stepped closer, her eyes tracing patterns in the seemingly chaotic design. This reminds me of something, she murmured. Of what? The Visit asked, curiosity momentarily overcoming distrust. Coral reefs on Earth, neural networks in a human brain, natural structures that grow rather than being built. Maya pointed to a cluster of crystal formations. These aren't mechanical components. They're grown, living structures. The alien engineers exchanged glances. The Menton chittered rapidly to his colleagues in their native language before addressing Maya. We have considered this possibility, but our species evolved on worlds with stable, predictable environments. We lack the framework to understand biological systems of this complexity. Maya smiled slightly. Humans evolved alongside millions of species in constantly changing conditions. We had to understand biology to survive. She pointed to another section of the schematic. These aren't power conduits. They're more like veins. Your guardian isn't just a machine. It's alive. A ripple of discomfort passed through the assembled aliens. The Kurzeli representative drifted closer to Maya. Even if you're correct, human, how would this knowledge help repair the guardian? Let me see it up close, Maya insisted, not just from the public chamber, but its core systems. After heated debate in at least 6 languages, the council reluctantly agreed. The Menton chief engineer led Maya through restricted corridors to a sealed chamber deep within the station's central hub. Security protocols disengaged with a series of musical tones, revealing a chamber bathed in pulsing blue light. Maya approached the crystalline structure reverently. Unlike the public-facing portion in the confluence chamber, these crystals were smaller, more densely packed, their surfaces inscribed with microscopic patterns that reminded her of circuit boards, if circuit boards were designed by someone with a deep appreciation for fractal mathematics. Beautiful, she whispered, reaching out instinctively. Do not touch, the Menton warned. Too late. Maya's hand made contact with a crystal shard. It felt warm, alive beneath her fingertips. She traced a pattern that seemed to call to her, following an intuition she couldn't explain. Suddenly, the shard broke free, slicing her palm. Contamination. The Menton cried in alarm as drops of red human blood fell onto the crystal surface. But instead of the catastrophic failure the aliens clearly expected, the crystals nearest the blood droplets began to glow more intensely, their pulse synchronizing with Maya's heartbeat. A previously invisible seam appeared in the central structure, widening to reveal a chamber within. A chamber that appeared perfectly sized for a human body. Impossible, the Menton whispered. The Guardian has never. Maya stared at the opening, then at her bleeding hand, understanding dawning in her eyes. "It wasn't malfunctioning," she said softly. "It was waiting. For someone like me." "This is madness," Ambassador Chen hissed through the comlink. "You have no authorization to risk an interstellar incident." Maya checked the final seal on her lightweight environmental suit, ignoring the ambassador's protests. Around her, alien technicians prepared monitoring equipment with trembling appendages. News of the Guardians' response to human blood had spread throughout the station, causing equal parts hope and panic. "With respect, sir," Maya replied, "I'm exercising Clause 15 of the Diplomatic Exchange Program. Emergency technical intervention. The station administrator has approved." The visit administrator, hovering nearby, flicked their tongue nervously. "Under extreme duress, I should note for the record. The chamber housing the Guardians' Corps had been evacuated except for essential personnel." Maya studied the opening that had appeared after her blood contact, a perfectly human-sized aperture leading into the crystalline heart of the ancient system. "What environmental conditions should I expect in there?" she asked the Menton chief engineer. The aliens' compound eyes blinked rapidly, and what Maya had learned was their version of nervous hesitation. "Unknown. Our probes cease functioning upon entry. We can only detect elevated radiation levels, increased gravitational density, and atmospheric pressure variations that would be—" He paused, mandibles clicking. "Terminal for most confluent species." Maya nodded, but not necessarily for a Deathworlder. She approached the opening, acutely aware of the station-wide broadcast capturing her every move. The diplomatic corps had insisted on documentation, either for her commendation or court-martial, depending on the outcome. "I'm proceeding with minimal protective gear," she announced for the record. "Full suit would restrict movement and sensory input." The Kurizali scientist monitoring life signs made a sound of distress. "You cannot enter with only basic protection. The radiation alone will." Humans evolved under constant solar radiation on a planet with naturally occurring radioactive materials. Maya interrupted, removing the bulkier components of her suit until only the base layer remained. "Our cells have repair mechanisms you don't." Before further objections could be raised, Maya stepped into the aperture. For a moment, she felt intense pressure, as though passing through a membrane. Then she was inside a chamber unlike anything she'd ever seen. Crystalline structures stretched in all directions, pulsing with internal light that followed complex rhythms. The gravity was heavier here, perhaps 1.2 Earth standard, and the air carried an electric tang that reminded her of thunderstorms in Mexico City where she'd grown up. Far from the sterile engineering she expected, the chamber felt organic, alive. "Rodriguez, report status," came the administrator's worried voice through her comm. "I'm fine," she replied, surprised to find she meant it. "It's actually comfortable in here. Feels like home." Maya advanced deeper into the chamber, guided by intuition and the subtle patterns of light that seemed to respond to her presence. At the center, she found what could only be described as the Guardian's heart, a dense crystalline matrix suspended in an energy field, its pulses growing increasingly erratic. "I see the problem," she transmitted. "The core matrix is desynchronized. Integration pathways have degraded." The Menton's voice came through with static. "Can you identify the maintenance protocol?" Maya placed her hand against a nearby crystal. Information flooded her mind, not as data or language, but as instinctive understanding. "There is no protocol. The system requires improvisation." Working with certainty that defied explanation, Maya began rerouting crystalline pathways, sometimes breaking connections to form new ones. When she encountered corroded integration nodes, she did what her instincts demanded. She spat on them, her enzyme-rich saliva dissolving millennia of accumulated mineral deposits that no alien solvent had touched. The monitoring aliens watched in horror and fascination as Maya violated every maintenance procedure in existence, yet the Guardian's diagnostics showed immediate improvement. "Impossible," whispered the Kurizali scientist. "She's using biological matter as a conductive medium." When a power surge threatened to overload the newly formed connections, Maya did the unthinkable. She placed herself directly in the circuit path, her body bridging two crystal arrays. Electricity coursed through her muscles, causing her to convulse momentarily. "Rodriguez!" shouted multiple voices through the comm. Maya grimaced through gritted teeth. "Just a tingle. Human nervous system can handle more voltage than you'd think." She released her grip as the power stabilized, the crystals now pulsing in perfect synchronization with her heartbeat. "We evolved on a planet where lightning regularly strikes the ground. Natural selection is a hell of a design engineer." Throughout the chamber, dormant systems flared to life, crystals changing color from cool blue to vibrant purple. Maya stood at the center of the transformation, her blood, sweat, and saliva now integrated into the ancient system. "I think," she said, watching patterns of light chase themselves through the rejuvenated matrix, "the Guardian is waking up." The Guardian's core pulsed with renewed vigor, waves of energy rippling through the crystalline network. Maya stepped back to admire her handiwork, satisfaction warming her chest. The erratic patterns had stabilized, and the vibration she'd felt upon arrival had transformed into a steady, powerful hum. Diagnostics show life support restoring in all sectors. The Menton chief engineer reported through the comm, his voice tinged with reluctant admiration. "Whatever you did, it appears to be working." Maya nodded, suddenly exhausted. "I'm coming out. The Guardian should maintain stability now." She turned toward the aperture she'd entered through, but as she approached, the opening began to shrink. Maya broke into a run, but too late. The crystal sealed itself with a musical chime. "Rodriguez." The administrator's voice crackled with alarm. "What's happening?" Before Maya could respond, tendrils of luminescent energy emerged from the surrounding crystals, wrapping around her limbs. She instinctively struggled before realizing the energy wasn't harmful. It felt warm, almost familiar against her skin. "I'm okay," she transmitted, trying to keep her voice steady. "The Guardian is scanning me, I think." Outside the chamber, security feeds showed alien security forces assembling, their weapons trained on the sealed crystal wall. The station's artificial gravity fluctuated as power redirected to unknown systems throughout the structure. Inside, Maya floated in a cocoon of light, her body suspended in the center of the chamber. The crystalline structures around her shifted configuration, forming patterns that reminded her of DNA helixes and neural pathways. "Genetic match confirmed," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The language was unlike any Maya had heard before, neither human nor alien. Yet somehow she understood perfectly. "What do you mean, genetic match?" she asked, her words automatically translating into the strange language. The Guardian's voice resonated through her bones. "You are of the precursor pattern, the first to enter this chamber in 27,000 cycles." Images flooded Maya's mind, glimpses of beings who looked surprisingly human, yet not quite. Taller, with denser musculature and subtle differences in facial structure, but unmistakably similar to Homo sapiens. They'd moved through environments that would kill most galactic species, building technologies that merged biological and crystalline components. The precursors were Deathworlders, Maya whispered in realization. "Like humans." "Correct," the Guardian confirmed. "Created to survive conditions others could not. Designed to adapt, to innovate, to endure." The energy tendrils penetrated Maya's skin painlessly, connecting directly with her nervous system. Information transferred at speeds that should have overwhelmed her brain, yet somehow she processed it, understanding flowing into her consciousness like water. "For millennia, I have operated at minimal capacity," the Guardian continued, "maintained by species physically incapable of fully interfacing with my systems, unable to communicate my true purpose." Maya saw flashes of alien engineers over centuries, their tentative manipulations of the Guardian's external systems, never daring or able to enter the core as she had. "What is your true purpose?" she asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "Protection. Preparation. Preservation of knowledge until the next generation of adaptable ones emerge. The crystal wall suddenly dissolved, revealing the chamber to the assembled aliens outside. Maya floated above the floor, energy tendrils still connected to her body, her eyes now glowing with the same crystalline light as the Guardian. Throughout the station, hidden chambers opened. Walls shifted, revealing technology centuries beyond current galactic science. Defense systems activated, weapon emplacements emerging from decorative features that had never been recognized as anything but aesthetic. The Visit Administrator slithered forward cautiously. "What has it done to you?" Maya turned to face them. Her perception expanded beyond normal human senses. She could feel the station's systems as extensions of her own body, could read the bioelectric signatures of every being aboard. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonic undertones that made the aliens step back involuntarily. "The Guardian has awakened," she said, her feet touching the floor as the energy tendrils gradually retreated. Where they had connected with her skin, tiny crystalline patterns remained, glittering beneath the surface. And it has recognized humanity as the inheritors of the precursor legacy. She looked at her hands, now subtly altered, stronger, more efficient, her neural pathways enhanced beyond human baseline. "We need to prepare," she announced to the stunned officials. "They're coming back." News of Maya's connection with the Guardian reached Earth within hours. The United Earth government convened an emergency session as diplomatic channels across the galaxy buzzed with alarm, speculation, and in some corners, outrage. Maya stood before a hastily assembled council on the station, her appearance causing visible discomfort among the representatives. The crystalline patterns had spread beneath her skin, tracing luminous pathways along her veins. Her eyes, now flecked with the same structure as the Guardian, perceived spectrums beyond normal human vision. "You must understand the significance," she explained, projecting holographic star charts from her palm, another new ability. "The Deathworld protocol isn't just about this station. It's a network spanning hundreds of systems." Ambassador Chen studied the display with a mixture of awe and concern. "These coordinates, some are in unexplored space, but others lie within established territories of major powers. The precursors built their outposts in places other species avoided," Maya replied. "Radiation belts, extreme gravity wells, environments that would kill most galactic citizens, but were perfect for their physiology." She paused, meeting the ambassador's gaze. "For our physiology." The Visit Administrator, now reluctantly cooperative, slithered forward. "The confluence must be informed of your intentions before any expedition to these coordinates. The diplomatic implications alone." "There isn't time for diplomatic niceties," Maya interrupted, her enhanced perception detecting subtle energy fluctuations in local spacetime. "The Guardian's activation has triggered responses across the network, and something else is stirring in response." That night, as the station orbited the triple star system, Maya dreamed. Not the scattered images of normal human sleep, but vivid, structured information flowing directly into her consciousness. She saw star systems in perfect detail, coordinates burning into her memory. She witnessed vast underground facilities housing technology beyond current understanding. And most disturbingly, she saw thousands of suspension chambers containing beings that looked eerily similar to humans. Maya woke gasping, the room's illumination responding instantly to her elevated heart rate. She transmitted the coordinates to the Earth flotilla waiting at the edge of the system before the bureaucracy could intervene. 3 days later, the UES Resolute reached the first location, a supposedly barren moon orbiting a gas giant in the Proxima Centauri system. Initial scans showed nothing of interest, matching existing survey data perfectly. "There's nothing here," Chief Rodriguez, Captain Alvarez reported via quantum link, his holographic form standing before Maya in her new quarters. "Just another dead rock." Maya closed her eyes, accessing information the Guardian had transferred to her. "Scan for neutrino emissions at precisely 438.6 mAh. It's shielded from conventional detection." The captain raised an eyebrow, but complied. Minutes later, his expression shifted to astonishment. "How did you? We're detecting a massive underground structure, at least 20 kilometers in diameter. Send in drones first," Maya instructed. "The defense systems are programmed to recognize human genetic signatures, but they need time to adjust after dormancy." The footage transmitted back to the station left the assembled alien representatives in stunned silence. Vast halls carved from the moon's bedrock stretched beyond sight, filled with technology both familiar and utterly alien. And at the center, row upon row of suspension chambers, each containing a humanoid figure. "Their precursors," the Kurzali scientist whispered. "The facial structure, the musculature, the resemblance to humans is uncanny." "Not a resemblance," Maya corrected. "A relationship." The Guardian confirmed it. Humans and precursors share approximately 96% genetic similarity. We're their descendants, or perhaps their successors. As diplomatic chaos erupted across the galaxy, Maya continued receiving increasingly disturbing dreams. The Guardian was preparing her for something, showing her fragments of an ancient war against entities it called void breakers. Images of dimensional rifts and worlds consumed by impossible geometries haunted her sleep. In her private moments, studying the star charts and ancient records now accessible to her enhanced perception, Maya finally understood the truth. The precursors hadn't disappeared. They had sacrificed themselves to seal dimensional breaches after their initial victories proved temporary. Sensors newly activated throughout the station detected thin spots in reality near populated systems, evidence that their ancient enemy had been preparing for return. When she brought this information to the council, the chamber erupted in panic. Only the human representatives remained calm, their Deathworld instincts automatically assessing threats and calculating survival odds. "How do we fight an enemy that exists between dimensions?" Ambassador Chen asked quietly. Maya's crystalline eyes reflected the light as she answered. "We wake up the warriors who fought them last time, and we prepare humanity to take their place. This is an outrage." The Verith ambassador's voice boomed through the confluence chamber, his multifaceted exoskeleton flaring with iridescent patterns of fury. "Humanity has been part of Galactic society for barely 3 years, and now they claim inheritance of the most advanced technology ever discovered." 2 weeks had passed since the activation of the first precursor outpost. In that time, 17 more sites had been located, each responding to human genetic signatures. The Galactic confluence had split into factions, with ancient powers like the Verith Dominion leading opposition to human control of precursor technology. Maya stood calmly before the assembled representatives, her transformed physiology now allowing her to process multiple data streams while simultaneously engaging in diplomatic discussion. Ambassador Chen stood beside her, his expression carefully neutral despite the hostility directed at the human delegation. "We make no claims of exclusive rights," Maya responded, her voice carrying harmonics that the Guardian had taught her to modulate. "Earth has proposed a joint research initiative, open to all confluence members." "Under human supervision," the Verith ambassador countered, "with human genetic keys required for access." Maya spread her hands in a gesture of openness. "That's a biological reality, not a political choice. The systems respond to our genetic signature. We can't change that." A soft murmur passed through the chamber as representatives consulted with their governments via neural links. The Visit administrator raised a placating hand. "Perhaps we should focus on Engineer Rodriguez's warning about these void breakers, if dimensional incursions are imminent." "Convenient," interrupted the Verith ambassador. "Humans discover they're related to the precursors, gain control of their technology, and suddenly there's a mysterious threat only they can detect and counter." His compound eyes fixed on Maya. Some might see this as an orchestrated power grab. The tension in the chamber crystallized. Maya felt the Guardian's presence in her mind, urging restraint, but human stubbornness flared. "The threat is real," she insisted. "The Guardian's records are clear. The Void Breakers nearly destroyed this galaxy once before. They specifically target adaptable species capable of resistance, which is why the precursors were their primary enemy. And now humans, the Verith ambassador said skeptically. How fortunate for your species to suddenly become so important. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. We've shared all data transparently. Our scientific teams invite verification. Enough. The Verith's exoskeleton flared crimson. The Dominion will not recognize human authority over precursor sites within our territory. The Guardian must be disconnected from the human interface and placed under neutral control. Maya felt a chill as the Guardian's warning flashed through her mind. That would be a mistake, she said quietly. The Guardian's systems are integrated with my neural patterns now. Forced disconnection could damage both of us. A risk we're willing to accept, the Verith replied coldly. That night, as Maya meditated in her quarters, a practice the Guardian had taught her to manage her expanding consciousness, station sensors detected an unauthorized entry to the Guardian's chamber. 3 Verith operatives had bypassed security using diplomatic credentials, carrying equipment designed to sever Maya's connection to the ancient system. The Guardian alerted her instantly, its presence flaring in her mind. Maya reached out with her enhanced senses, attempting to warn the intruders remotely, but they had already begun attaching devices to the crystalline core. Stop, she projected through the station's communication system. The Guardian's defense protocols. A blinding flash erupted from the core chamber. When emergency teams arrived, they found the 3 Verith operatives dead, their bodies apparently calcified from within. The Guardian's crystals pulsed with defensive energy, undamaged by the attempted sabotage. Maya stood in the doorway, her expression grim as she surveyed the scene. I tried to warn them. The Guardian was designed to protect itself against non-compatible species. The incident fractured the galactic confluence along ideological lines. The ancient powers, species who had dominated politics for millennia, viewed the human Guardian connection as an existential threat to their authority. Younger species, particularly those who had chafed under the old hierarchies, saw humanity as potential allies. As Maya reviewed historical records newly accessible through her Guardian link, she discovered something disturbing. The ancient galactic powers had encountered precursors before, and had deliberately avoided searching for their technology after their disappearance, not from fear of what they might awaken, as they claimed, but because they had flourished in the power vacuum the precursors left behind. More troubling still were the medical reports filtering in from multiple systems. Several non-Deathworld species reported mysterious symptoms when stationed near activated precursor sites: fatigue, respiratory distress, immune dysfunction. The Verith Dominion immediately accused humanity of biological warfare. Maya's analysis revealed the horrifying truth. The sites weren't causing sickness. They were detecting it. The Void Breakers had already infiltrated, using biological agents engineered millennia ago to weaken potential resistance before their main forces arrived. They remember the precursors, Maya whispered to herself as the data confirmed her fears. And they recognize us as the same threat. The Earth fleet arrived at the Galactic Confluence Station with minimal diplomatic warning. 30 vessels of the United Earth Navy's newest Orion-class battlecruisers dropped out of FTL in perfect formation, a display of precision that belied the common alien perception of humans as reckless barbarians. Admiral Helena Takashi stood on the bridge of the UEN Prometheus, watching the massive station grow larger on the view screen. Unlike the elegant, streamlined vessels of most galactic species, human ships were blocky, overbuilt monstrosities with redundant systems and armor plating that other engineers considered wasteful. We've received docking clearance, her communications officer reported. Though the Verith representatives have filed a formal protest, Admiral Takashi allowed herself a thin smile. Noted. Proceed as planned. On the station, Maya felt the Guardian's acknowledgement of the human fleet, a sense of recognition that transcended technological differences. She met Admiral Takashi in a secure conference room, the walls reconfigured by the Guardian to block all surveillance. The situation has deteriorated faster than expected, Maya explained, projecting a three-dimensional map of dimensional anomalies now detected across multiple sectors. The Void Breakers are probing our defenses, looking for weak points. The Admiral studied the display with the calculating focus of someone who had spent decades planning for worst-case scenarios, a distinctly human quality that had served their species well on their harsh homeworld. And the Vareth still deny the threat exists. Maya nodded. They've convinced nearly half the confluence that this is a human power grab. Meanwhile, their citizens are falling ill from the biological agents, and they're blaming us for that too. The Admiral's gaze shifted to the display showing Earth's fleet. Our engineers have been studying the data you sent. The structural similarities between precursor vessels and our own designs are remarkable. Not coincidence, Maya confirmed. The Guardian believes humans instinctively recreated aspects of precursor engineering principles. What alien species viewed as primitive, brute force design choices were actually optimal solutions for vessels operating under extreme stress conditions. Engineers from Earth worked around the clock, studying recovered precursor technology and adapting it to human vessels. What would have taken other species decades of careful analysis, humans accomplished in weeks through intuitive leaps, trial and error, and what the Kurzali scientists called reckless experimentation. Maya watched a team retrofit the Prometheus with crystalline power nodes, the humans handling technology that alien engineers approached with religious reverence, as if they were simply upgrading standard components. "You're not afraid of it," observed a Menton engineer who had reluctantly joined the preparation efforts. "Should we be?" asked the human technician, her hand steady as she integrated the precursor crystal with the ship's power grid. "It's the most advanced technology in known space." The technician shrugged. "So was fire once. Then the wheel. Then nuclear fusion. Technology is meant to be used, not worshipped." As Maya monitored the retrofitting operation, the Guardian's presence surged in her mind. An urgent warning. Her enhanced perception expanded outward, sensing disturbances in space-time that conventional sensors couldn't detect. "Admiral," she called, her voice tight with urgency. "It's happening." The dimensional breach opened near the Talaris colony, a peaceful agricultural world with minimal defenses. Conventional sensors detected the anomaly too late, after reality itself had torn open like fabric, exposing the void between dimensions. The Galactic Defense Fleet responded immediately, their elegant vessels arrayed in textbook formation. As they approached the breach zone, their systems began failing. Gravitational distortions warped their hulls, radiation fried delicate circuitry, and exotic particles penetrated their sophisticated shields. "They can't get close enough to engage," Admiral Takashi observed grimly as they watched the disaster unfold via quantum feed. "Their ships are too delicate." Maya nodded, the crystalline patterns beneath her skin pulsing with agitation. "Human vessels might withstand the environmental conditions. Our redundant systems and physical shielding were designed for exactly this kind of extreme scenario." The Admiral made her decision instantly. Prometheus Battle Group will deploy immediately. The rest of the fleet will continue retrofitting here. As the human vessels prepared to depart, Maya requested permission to join them. Her connection to the Guardian had revealed its true purpose, not merely station management, but a weapon of last resort against dimensional incursions. The knowledge needed to activate it was now integrated with her consciousness. Admiral Takashi studied Maya's transformed appearance, the crystalline patterns now covering 60% of her visible skin, her eyes glowing with inhuman perception. "Are you still human enough to care about our survival?" the Admiral asked bluntly. Maya met her gaze steadily. "I'm human enough to fight for it." The Prometheus departed the station with Maya aboard, her enhanced senses guiding the fleet toward the breach. As they approached the distortion zone, the same conditions that had crippled the Galactic fleet merely strained human engineering tolerances. Hull temperature rising but within acceptable parameters, reported the engineering officer. Radiation shielding holding at 86%. On the bridge, Maya felt the Void Breaker's consciousness touch her mind, and recoil in shock at finding a non-precursor wielding their ancient enemy's power. "They recognize us," she whispered, "and they fear what they can't predict." The dimensional breach above Talaris pulsed with impossible colors, its edges cutting through reality like a wound in the fabric of existence itself. Through the tier, shapes moved that defied comprehension, entities of non-Euclidean geometry that caused sensory overload in organic minds attempting to process them. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Maya stood transfixed, her enhanced perception allowing her to perceive the Void Breakers without the madness that afflicted unmodified humans viewing the direct feed. The Guardian's knowledge flowed through her consciousness, translating the incomprehensible into terms she could understand. "They're probing our defenses," she explained to Admiral Takashi, "testing for weaknesses, analyzing our response patterns." The Admiral's face remained impassive, but Maya sensed her elevated heart rate. "How do we fight something that exists partly in another dimension?" "Conventionally, we can't," Maya admitted, "but the precursors developed weapons that could reach across dimensional boundaries." As she spoke, tendrils of void energy lashed out from the breach, wrapping around a human support vessel. Instead of the methodical, predictable defense protocols that most galactic ships would follow, the human captain executed a series of random evasive maneuvers, firing kinetic weapons into the breach itself. "Fascinating," Maya whispered. "They expected a logical response pattern. Human unpredictability confuses them." The battle unfolded across multiple dimensional planes, human vessels deploying newly integrated precursor weapons alongside conventional armaments, in combinations no tactical simulation would have predicted. The Void Breakers attacked with calculated precision, having studied galactic species for centuries, but their algorithms failed against humans whose combat doctrine embraced chaos theory and intuitive decision-making. "They've been watching us for millennia," Maya realized aloud, "learning our patterns, our weaknesses, but they weren't watching Earth." Even as the human fleet engaged the emerging void entities, Maya felt the Guardian's presence intensify in her mind. Its message was clear. The battle at Talaris was merely a diversion. Multiple breaches were forming throughout charted space, too many for conventional forces to contain. Maya turned to Admiral Takashi, her expression grave. This was their strategy against the precursors too. Overwhelmed through numerical superiority. "We need to seal the breaches permanently, not just fight what comes through them." "How?" "The Guardian was never just a station maintenance system," Maya explained. "It's a weapon, designed to generate a cascading dimensional barrier, but activating it requires," she hesitated, "a complete neural merge, the living precursor consciousness." Understanding dawned in the Admiral's eyes, or the closest genetic equivalent. Maya nodded. "I need to return to the station." As the Prometheus raced back to the Galactic Confluence Station, reports flooded in of new breaches opening near populated systems. The galactic powers that had dismissed the threat now frantically requested Earth's assistance, their elegant but specialized vessels helpless against the dimensional invaders. Maya stood in the Guardian's core chamber for what she knew would be the final time. The crystalline patterns had spread across her entire body now, her consciousness expanded far beyond human limitations. Ambassador Chen and the Visit Administrator watched somberly as she approached the central matrix. "Will you remain yourself?" Chen asked, his diplomatic composure finally cracking. Maya smiled gently. "I'll become something more, but I won't lose what makes me human." She placed her hand against the pulsing crystal. "Our adaptability is what they fear most. Our capacity to change without losing our essence." The Guardian's crystals responded to her touch, opening to reveal the deepest integration node. A space designed for complete consciousness transfer. Maya stepped inside without hesitation, her physical form dissolving into pure energy as her mind expanded across the station, then further to connected precursor sites across the galaxy. Her awareness stretched across vast distances, perceiving every breach simultaneously. Through the Guardian network, she felt the awakening of the hibernating precursor warriors, their ancient consciousness recognizing her as kin despite the millennia that separated them. In orbit around Earth, in the Varith home system, at the furthest reaches of charted space, everywhere the void breakers had torn reality, Maya's expanded consciousness reached out. The full precursor defense network activated under her direction, generating a cascading dimensional barrier that sealed every breach simultaneously. The void entities caught on the wrong side of the barriers found themselves facing the combined might of human ingenuity and precursor technology, a force as adaptable as it was relentless. Without their dimensional advantages, the invaders were vulnerable to conventional weapons wielded in unconventional ways, a combat approach at which humans excelled. In the aftermath, the galactic community confronted a new reality. Humanity stood as the inheritor of the precursor legacy, with all the power and responsibility that entailed. The ancient hierarchies that had dominated for millennia crumbled as younger species allied themselves with Earth. The Guardian, now carrying a fragment of Maya's consciousness, addressed the assembled galactic representatives in the confluence chamber. The precursors shaped this galaxy through wisdom and sacrifice. They created me to preserve their knowledge until worthy successors emerged. The crystalline structure pulsed with Maya's familiar speech patterns. Humanity has proven themselves not because they matched precursor power, but because they brought something new, the unique adaptability of a species that evolved through constant challenge and change. In the years that followed, humans and the revived precursors worked together to strengthen the dimensional barriers, ensuring the void breakers could never return. The technology once hoarded by ancient powers spread throughout the galaxy, inaugurating an era of unprecedented innovation. And Maya, neither fully human nor guardian, watched over Earth from the stars. The first of a new generation of guardians born from humanity's unique ability to endure, adapt, and transform in the face of impossible odds. Her consciousness spanned the galaxy, but her heart remained with the Deathworld species that had given her the courage and imagination to save a universe. We were never primitive, her voice whispered through the Guardian network. We were precisely what the galaxy needed.